Okay. Hello, my divine, infinite human beings. You're all that is, ever has been, and ever shall be. And welcome to the Infinite Human Talk Show. Today, we have the great Dave Emery once again, one of my favorite souls on this planet right now, incarnate. And I just love all our discussions because they're so profound. And today we're going to take on the huge topic of Christ, the birth of Christ and the truth behind Christ, the man they called Jesus. But we're going to bring that up, and we have different perspectives. So it's going to be fascinating. I also want to bring in a little bit about Mary Magdalena, Sophia Magdalena, and the birth of your inner Christ and the winter solstice. So this broadcast is to help you position yourself, because I know many of you, if you're in the Western Hemisphere, in the Americas where I am now, and in Europe, the Christian cultures are just, Christmas is such a powerful thought form that's all around you. And it's always helped me to every year to choose my position and how I'm going to just be in this energy and what I'm going to be transmitting in terms of my own frequency and truth. And of course, we're also going to at the end talk about the black sheep. And if many of you know me, I'm Elizabeth Monroe. I'm also the author of The Infinite Human. And, I've spent many Christmases by myself, me and Kiki. And we're in Mexico this year. So I don't even, usually Christmas is like, oh yeah, it's Christmas. But I did do Thanksgiving with my family. But many of you will be called in, I feel, to participate with your family this year. And if it's toxic, I always say don't. But if you do, then I hope this can help you to hold the frequency of love and truth, because the truth is they're starting to look to you now. Even if they don't this year, they will, and they'll never admit it. But most people are really terrified because they know things are shifting, and they're shifting so rapidly, and they don't have a clue, but they can sense you do, even though, of course, we're all confused right now, probably because of the timeline shifting. But so this is to help you in that. Okay, so welcome, Dave. Hi, Dave Emery. So Dave, would you mind telling me about yourself? Because, I'm like on vacation here. Sorry.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me, Elizabeth. I always enjoy being with you and talking with you.
Thank you for coming.
We're sort of like aligned energies, aligned souls appearing on Earth at the same time. And that's very fortuitous for both of us, I hope. As for me, well, I'm just an ordinary guy who managed to wake up eventually to what was really going on and to the chaos and the confusion. And I'm talking about the chaos and confusion in my own life. And then I realized that it was all part and parcel of Earth's current progress. And so I started to wake up, and as a result of waking up, I discovered more things, and I went down a few rabbit holes, and I still got some to go through. And I ended up here talking with like-minded souls, trying to share the truths, trying to share the information and the intelligence that we had discovered together as one. And so basically that's all the story that really counts for me.
Well, yes, and you've been on our show several times, and you have a book that you just finished, so we can Beyond Biblical, the slingshot. Please tell me the name because it's changed.
Well, it's Slingshot Evac, Beyond the Biblical, and into the universe of you. So really, it's talking about all of us individually and collectively. We, the angelic human race, and why we're here. What is the point of us being here? And there is a purpose and there is a mission.
Okay, beautiful. Can't wait. It should be out soon, right?
Yeah, indeed.
All right, Great. So, okay, so let's just get into the topic today about the three Christs. Now, I'm going to just kind of go down and I just listened to one of her last tapes, what Speaker One, Ashiana Dean, said about it, so many years ago. But I will preface it with the fact that I feel like right now, I mean, today's the 1212 portal, and the energies are off the chart with just we're sleeping and collapsing timelines and I've been sleeping like 14 hours a day just because I can't assimilate it so fast. And I think what I've realized is that we are all, and when I came here to the Yucatan, it was so amazing because I met this woman who was sitting right there where I was told to go to the beach, and they were waiting, and Kiki, of course, found them, and then she started talking about the place where we were and how there was this 13 pillars and the stargates, and she was just sprouting all this colonic, information that, very few of us had. And I was like, oh, wow, thank you. So I knew I was in a very powerful place and a very powerful time doing very powerful work. And she was just a validation of that. So it came to me that we're all seeing this huge transformation from different perspectives and on different timelines. And there's no judgment. There's no good, bad. There's just, we all, due to our personal story, are being sent to different parts of the planet to work the grids and our bodies, and to perhaps finish up stories. So a lot of these stories that were true are collapsing as the organic timelines take place, and they're replaced by more higher frequency stories. And as we collapse the lower frequencies within us, we are realigning with these higher frequencies. And as we move about the planet, I don't know if you heard the transmission, but the other day, Ashiana Dean, Ashiana, said she was vacating a vac very fast, the second Stargate of Sarasota, and moving to Laos. And she was on the plane, after the thing. Big shift for her because she's held that gate for a long time. But she was saying that the guardians were telling her to leave. And I really feel like she wouldn't disclose the place yet, but I really think it's Ireland. And I know you're getting called to Ireland, and we've talked to Mary Costello, and I'm here, like, just a little side thing. I'm like in a triangle. I noticed I'm with Malta and Sicily, the Yucatan, and then Ireland. It makes this perfect triangle. So the grids and the timelines are very key right now for us as I feel like we're finishing some of our stories personally, and then opening to new ones. So I just want to start with the story that we were given back, I think it was in the early 2000 by Ashiana Dean, and then please feel free to add yours. Okay. So, and that one too. So if you want to help me with that, but basically it's the three Christ, and I never use the word Jesus because actually in my book, I looked it up, and the Greek translation of Jesus is Hail Zeus. So that was the, Anunnaki getting in there and putting theirs. And so basically it's all Anunnaki overlaid. And we've talked about that in the past with the Hebrews, really not being the true Israelites, and then through the manipulation of bloodlines, they finally got a 12-stranded avatar in the true Christ, Yeshua with a Y, 12, who had 12-stranded DNA, or Jeshua Sandanda Melchizideck, and he was born. And can you tell us the details about his birth? Because you are very good with that.
Well, not everything you've been saying is accurate according to what we've discovered through Kilonta and Ashiana Dean. A lot of new information has transpired since then, but of course, yes. The thing is that it was known that if I can just go back a little bit, before Jeshua was born in 12 BC, allegedly 12 BC, and he was Jeshua Sandanda Melchizideck, and he came through Sirius B, the 6th dimension, but he was really a 12th dimensional avatar soul essence out of the Sananda essence, which is from 13th and 14th dimensions. So a very highly coded avatar being, and he was incarnated here. And the reason he had to be incarnated is because it was impossible for any higher coded individuals to materialize themselves here on Earth, because the gates had been closed and it was impossible for them to get here except by being incarnated onto the Earth. And so why was he here then? Well, the significant thing is that he was a part of the preparation for the ascension that we are going through today. From 2000 AD through to effectively 2022, we have been in an ascension process. Now, that ascension process began in 2000 AD, but it had been stopped for 210,000 years by the distortions in the frequency fields. So for 210,000 years, no one was able to naturally ascend as they should have been. And so the Guardian Alliances and the good guys in the higher dimensional realms decided that, you know what, we're going to guarantee an ascension in the year 2000. Whatever happens, we're going to do it. Now, that meant also that the fallen angelics, such as the Anunnaki, they also knew that this was going to be targeted. So 2000 AD was a big date line for everyone on Earth and in the multi-dimensions. And so to prepare for this 2000, the Guardian Alliance and many of the other benign gestalts, they all realized that Earth wasn't able to actually secure the frequencies that would be required for an ascension in 2000. If the frequencies didn't ramp up and improve and increase, then the Earth would explode with the sudden flows from the stellar activation cycle, which would begin in the year 2000. So Jeshua Sandanda Melchizideck, Jeshua 12, as we call him, he came here to enter the codes for the 12-dimensional DNA strands which had been distorted and lost. And he came here to put them into the sphere of Amenti, which was the morphological field connection between angelic humans, Earth, and Tara, so that the whole of our local universe could ascend together when the time was right, to put us back on track, basically. We needed an avatar to come and bring the codes. Now, did he just come down with a load of digital codes and go to a computer somewhere and stick them in there? No, of course not. He brought them within his own genome, within his own DNA strands, his 12 DNA strands. He carried the codes. Now, I don't know, Elizabeth, I sent you an attachment with the Vecca codes on there. I don't know if you've been able to access that.
On the remember, this is a podcast, so that most of my viewers are on all the like Apple podcasts and Amazon. Okay. But I will upload them in the version that I edit on YouTube, so people can see that. That's why I did it.
Oh, that's great. Oh, thank you for telling me.
There are Vecca codes. Yes.
Right. So Jeshua Sandanda Melchizideck came here essentially to re-put in the codes, the 12-dimensional codes, so that we could ascend, so that the sphere of Amenti could make a connection between the race line morphogenetic field, Earth, and Tara, so that we could ascend. That was his primary mission, but he had some others as well. And those missions were to disconnect the diodic crystal under Stonehenge, and it was also to assist the Hebrew Essenes, the Essenes of the Hebrew nation, to be able to remember the Kelontic KRYST codes, how to live according to the law of one, because they'd forgotten so many things. And so that was the primary mission of Jeshua Sandanda Melchizideck. And I think that just basically covers the primary importance.
And unfortunately, he did, I would say, in some ways, we call him a savior. So in some ways, he was a savior because he saved our Earth's template and the house of Amente. So he saved it intact so we could now ascend. But he failed the second part because he wasn't able to do the Nerubian, dismount the Nerubian dyadic crystal grids. But he also did, from what I heard, you may disagree with this, but he was assigned to, I think, 12 different women from each of the Essene tribes to, to have sacred sexual, to make love to them, to transmit the codes, to create a lineage of the true KRYSTIC races, the true KRYSTIC. I've read that. So that's some other things. And then he did transmit the codes, the vector codes, just by being here, which unfortunately, I will put on this pod on my YouTube channel. So, okay.
Yeah, well, no, sure. And what you said about is having an alignment with selected females. Yes, that did also happen. It was 6 actually, six ladies. 6 ladies, yes, of different genomic connection, and he didn't take any part of raising these children. These children were raised by the mothers that gave birth to them, and also by Melchizideck blue flame males who stepped in to be the fathers and to look after them. So that is often a destabilizing inner standing when people discover that, in fact, Jeshua 12 did procreate with 6 women and produce 6 children. 5 of them survived, and some manifested in Holland. And one actually manifested in America and became known by the Native American tribes there as White Buffalo Woman, and became very, very famous, and still is talked of. So he introduced the codes through his very birth, but he also introduced the codes through helping to birth 6 other children. And those race lines with 12-dimensional strands exist on Earth today.
Okay. And then he was not crucified, but he ascended bodily through the Ark of the Covenant in Giza, the pyramid in Giza. And now this is where this is my story, but feel free to, expand on it, or, whatever you feel. But now his twin flame, his twin soul, divine counterpart, everyone's using different words nowadays, came with him. But according to Ashiana Dean's work, she was married off to the second Christ. I mean, there are 3, and that was a Christ of, I would say, Anunnaki design, in the sense that he was he was a 9-stranded avatar, and he was supposed to help, bridge the gap and bring a lot of the Anunnaki hybrids back into the Emerald Covenant, back into the fold, and help them with bioregenesis, giving them, a stepping stone to the 12 strands. But he did not, according to the latest information and video that I heard her saying, he instead, was married off, and Mary Sophia Magdalene did not know this, so she thought he was the Christ, and I think a lot of manipulation happened because she was female, so she, in a very dark masculine world at the time. And he basically took her, fled. He was the one who did all these sermons. This, was very famous, had a lot of his stuff that did get into the Bible. And I think he was also responsible for the book of Enoch. So there's going to be a lot of his stuff that may be coming out. And he fled to France because he was calling too much attention to himself by the Pharisees and the people who were in power, and went to the Cathars and passed himself off as the true Yeshua 12, and then began to procreate with that strain there, those, not all the Cathars, many of them refused to participate because they didn't, he didn't resonate with them. They knew he wasn't the true Yeshua 12. But the ones that did, he created the Magdalena strain that we saw in the Da Vinci Code, and that is the that created the Mervillian aristocratic king line that has ruled Europe and became the captains of industry and the presidents in the U.S. So, what is your perspective on that, or fill it in, whatever?
Well, the astonishing and wonderful thing about expanding consciousness and expanding knowledge and seeking out truth is that you do come across so many separate streams of knowledge and understanding. And really, if I can just say something I often say, it's often a matter of opinion, and it doesn't matter what the opinions may be. There may be differences. But what really counts with all of us now in expansions of consciousness is our direction of travel. Are we going in the same direction, the same area? Have we got the same destination? And we have. So in that case, even if there is a slight difference of opinion, it doesn't matter as long as we know that we are aligned in our direction of travel. And I just wanted to say that because the story or the narrative about Jeshua 9, a ninth dimensional avatar, who came here in 7 BC, 5 years after Jeshua 12, he is indeed, as everything that you said there, he came to assist the Anunnaki in particular. Not necessarily all the angelic humans at all, but the Anunnaki. Now, he was born of a Nephilim Anunnaki out of Jehovian line. And the Jehovian line began at the Treaty of El Anu 848,000 years ago. And so we're looking at a Nephilim influence of a great ancient legacy. And
can I just insert one thing very fast? Sorry.
Sure.
But Anu, the Anunnaki means adventures of Anu. So they were really originally created to, destroy the guardians, the divine angelic humans. Now, of course, we're all mixed now, but, that was the original intent, if I may.
No, you're absolutely right. Yes. The Anu, ANU, from hundreds of billions of years before, had been one of the race lines which had actually tilted the universal axis, so that we got into this state anyway. And when angelic humans were created 600 million years ago, the Anu decided that they would create their own race line called the Anunnaki. And Anunnaki means the avengers of Anu. And they came here, as you so rightly said, Elizabeth, they came here 600 million years ago to get the angelic humans, to eliminate them. So you're quite right. And this is what often causes challenges for people when you talk about Jeshua 9, who was essentially a Nephilim Anunnaki. And it was his parents who were known as Mary and Joseph. All right. And they were ordinary humans, of course, but his connection was through the Nephilim Anu line. You're quite right. And this, sorry
again, but I think he was his mother was impregnated by alien off planet means, which we see. I like this because I'm so, I live in Catholic land, so I try to connect the dots, which is why the Immaculate Conception is such a big deal there. So I don't know what you're.
No, you listen. You're right. We're on the same page. Yeah, okay. The Nephilim was an ET. The Nephilim was an Anunnaki ET, one of the ancient biblical men of renown, who in the past had spent a lot of time forced breeding with angelic human women long ago in the ancient times. And here comes another Nephilim ET who impregnates Mary, and that is how Jeshua 9 arrived here. And of course, his journey runs parallel with Jeshua 12. They didn't bump into each other except once, and that was in the Pyramid of Giza, when Jeshua 9 went there to have the sacraments given to him by Jeshua 12. So Jeshua 12 knew of Jeshua 9, and Jeshua 9 knew of Jeshua 12. But thereafter, their pathways separated. And in fact, Jeshua 12 was almost entirely unknown to the population. But Jeshua 9 is, as you so astutely said earlier, Elizabeth, he was the one who created all the stories, the parables, the Sermon on the Mount, all the talks, etc., the money changers in the temple. He had an instinct for following the angelic human connections with the law of one and with the KRYST code. But he was still affected by the Nephilim Anunnaki input, which he had in his genetic
Can I just say one thing? The Nephilim in the Bible, we're talking about the sons of gods. Saw the sons of man, the human women, and thought they were fair and took them as their wives. So really, we're talking about forced breeding programs where these, Anunnaki aliens would take the human and Christic angelic women to breed with because of our higher genetics. That they loved us, they craved us. So yeah,
and of course, you're quite right. That is what they did. Yes, and Jeshua 9, his mission was to try and alleviate a lot of that pain that had been created, but particularly with regard to realigning the Anunnaki genome with the angelic human. And that caused an awful lot of difficulty for him, because it set him into conflict with the Pharisees, sometimes even the Roman authorities and the Sadducees, who wanted to obey absolutely everything that was contained in the Bible and in the Torah. And so when Jeshua 9 deviated in any way from these fundamentalist scriptures, then he was caused a problem. And that's why he was spirited away eventually to France, as you so rightly said. Yes.
Okay. So we'll take France later, but let's bring, since you've led us into the third Christ, Arahabi, poor soul. He was used, and I'm correcting what I wrote in my book, The Infinite Human. So take this as a correction, because I was more positive in that. But I do want to look at the dark and dirty, because apparently by the Anunnaki got a hold of him, because they wanted to save their, according to what Ashiana said, save their Yeshua 9 Anunnaki. So they used him as a scapegoat, and they began to, through holographic inserts, become the voice of God and telling him that he was, the true Christ, Yeshua 9, who he actually looked like physically, and that he needed to sacrifice himself. And that's kind of a very powerful thought for him. And I want to bring that up because I'm here in the Mayan world where, the Mayans would play ball and fight, and the winners would get to be sacrificed. You think the losers would be sacrificed, but it was this mentality that we all have running. I have it all the time. I have to go, whoa, but sacrificing yourself is how you get closer to God, and that's really we're ending that time loop and that thought form. So he was the one, the poor SOB, that got crucified, nailed to the cross.
Well, yes, you're right, and that's another topic for another time, about the innate energy or inclination to sacrifice oneself for others. That'd be a program in itself. But with regard to Arihabi, you couldn't make this story up, could you? I mean, if I wrote a novel about this, people would say, "Forget it, Dave. Nobody's going to believe that one." But in fact,
I have to do the movie. I'm waiting for the screenplay. We're going to collaborate on this one.
Yeah. Well, no, it's an astounding story. There was a lot of heat on Jeshua 9, and there could have been a lot of heat on Jeshua 12. There was when Jeshua 12 was born, of course, when Herod tried to kill all the children. But these guys were looked for and hunted for. And so they needed a scapegoat, as you said. They needed somebody to deflect the intentions, etc., of the authorities at the time. Now, let me just interpose here and say that what we've got is a conflict between the Anunnaki and the Angelics, not face to face, but what we've got is when Jeshua 9 was born out of a Nephilim connection, it was governed by the Elohim. It was governed by the Elohim.
Yeah,
now, Jeshua,
the fallen Elohim, the fallen.
Yeah,
yes.
well, the Elohim originally were aligned with the Elohai, H-E-I, the Elohai, and they were in Lyra, in the cradle of Lyra, 300.
11 Stargate, right?
Yeah, 300 billion years ago.
Yes.
And so the Elohai and the Elohim looked after the whole of the time matrix. That was their founder's job. And then they fell apart. And so what you steadily had was the Elohai supporting the KRYST code, the Christ, and the Elohim supporting the independent energies of the Anu and the Anunnaki.
The Antichrist, really, the Antichrist, right?
The Antichrist. So now you've got the situation in Palestine, Israel, in 12 BC and whatever it was, that the Elohim are supporting Jeshua 9, and the Elohai and the Essenes are supporting Jeshua 12. There was no conflict, but there was a separation of powers in terms of that the Elohim were definitely looking after the Anunnaki side of things through Jeshua 9. So you're quite right. So in that case, what the Elohim decided to do was to have a fail-safe, a deflector, and that was Arihabi, an ordinary guy who had been affected by psychic controls, not nasty ones, but just psychic controls to insert into his frequency fields the fact that he was Jesus. He was the Jeshua that we're talking
and needed to die on the cross.
And yes, he was going to be sacrificed because this was a big deal, of course. But it also played into later Anunnaki and Cabal and human hybrid stories and narratives whereby primordial debt and original sin were tied together, and that the only way to expiate oneself was sacrifice. You had to sacrifice yourself.
Wow.
Which is what you have just been talking about.
Wow. That's in our DNA.
Yeah.
Wow.
So here we got Arihabi, an ordinary guy who believes he's Jesus, and he is tagged and brought along, led according to his inner workings of his mind, which are being programmed to be the Jesus, knowing what his destiny is, to die on the cross, to die for the Hebrew people. And this, of course, was used by the Roman Catholic Church like you would not believe. This is how they managed, the Cabal managed to secure controls over so many billions of us all. But can I just throw a spanner in the works to you all? Because in fact, Arihabi was also, his soul essences, his higher selves, at a much higher level, were contacted by the Elohai, the KRYST supporters and representatives. And they said, look, and they weren't happy about it, but our incarnate self is being duped here. Our incarnate self is going to suffer unnecessarily. And so the Elohai said, well, it seems necessary, and we will make recompense for you. And his recompense, Arihabi, was that he did ascend into Harmonic Universe 2 after his resurrection. And by the way, he was resurrected too. And that was done by the Elohim. So the stone was rolled away, and the Elohim did resurrect Arihabi. And that was manifested through an insert, a holographic insert, into the frequency fields of the land at that time, so all the people would believe what they had seen. A little bit like the planes going into the Twin Towers, a holographic insert. So you have got a very complex tale here, which involves the Elohai, the KRYST supporters, and the Elohim, the Anunnaki supporters, trying very hard to work together to prepare for an ascension, but at the same time, lots of corruption taking place, whereby eventually the whole of this Jesus story would be hijacked and taken over by the human hybrid cabal.
Well, I like that one. Ashianadine really didn't say what happened on this last video I saw to our hobby, but I like that one. And I wrote that in my book too, because it's a much gentler one. And supposedly he was reconstructed physically and given some more time to kind of get it in the physical. And then he didn't bodily ascend, but he did ascend through
spiritually. Yeah,
spiritually. So but I just want to pause for a moment, because I'm always in Catholic countries, and I'm sure I'm there because of Peter, because Peter was actually the Peter in the Bible.
Oh wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Which actually he was duped. I mean, he was hijacked too, and the keys, the Ark of the Covenant, all that fell in the wrong hands. So he has a lot to say about that, but that's another story. But being around the Catholic world, and he wasn't supposed to go to Rome. He was not supposed to go to Rome. So that whole thing, I'm kind of involved with that, because he's my other counterpart, of correcting the Catholic Church. Even though I was raised by a Presbyterian minister, I'm always the first place I ever went in Italy was Rome, and I've had an audience with the Pope, and it's always in my face. Even my very dear friends who are very spiritual are walking around with crucifixes on, and it's so much a part of them. I always say you can take an Italian out of the Catholic Church, but you can't take the Catholic Church out of an Italian. And they're very spiritual people, but they're just, and the women especially, which is why I want to talk about the Magdalena, because it's very much a part of the Catholic religion too. But, this crucifixion, when you walk into any of these ancient Tartarian structures, because that's what these cathedrals are, the first thing you see is this blood dripping satanic sacrifice of this half-nude man with the pineal implants, the crucifixion implants in this cross that is separating the divine masculine from the divine feminine and cutting off the heart, So this is a huge thing. And the Romans, who became the Roman Catholics, really milked it. The sacrifice that you talked about before, and then all these implants that are put in our body. And so I know everyone is going to believe in their time, and you can't push anyone. You can't smack them and wake them up from the program, which I've tried. It doesn't work. But just please, just to set that tone out there, to set that ripple out there, that it was not the correct timeline. That was not the true Yeshua 12 who was crucified. So just let that dissipate. Please, for Christ's sake.
Okay, well, I have to say, what a claim to fame that is. Maybe not. Meeting the Pope.
It was the last Pope, the last real Pope, not this one.
John. Okay, all right. Well, that's fantastic. But you were going to say something about Mary Magdalene there.
Okay, so let's go on with Mary Magdalene then, because I just see so much of the downside of it where I am, because the Catholics do believe in the Magdalena. They have all kinds of statues of her with her long hair living in the cave in the south of France. But and a lot of I'll just say Lisa Renee's works talks about how the Illuminati got a hold of her. They used her Sophic knowledge to create their blood sacrifice rituals to prolong life, which was not, it was supposed to be for eternal life. And they used her as a breeder to create their Anunnaki lines that ended up like I said before, ruling Europe, and that's, and I just want to put an end to that, because so many people are saying, I'm of the Magdalene line, or, the Illuminati, or I'm of the Royal Magic Grail lines, but these were not the true Christic Grail lines, that came all the way from the Atlantis, or even from Yeshua 12's lineage, but these were the Anunnaki hybrid, engineered lines. So, and that takes us to the Cathars, of course, the future of that. But please tell me your version.
Well, no, it's fascinating, because the royals of the Elizabeth II, when she was here, was many times quoted as saying that her line, her royal line, were descended from the line of King David and Solomon. And of course, before I started to wake up, I'd believed all that. I knew all about the histories. I thought, how amazing that your line can go all the way back to there. But in fact, now that I've woken up and discovered a few things, what a load of BS that is. And here's the reason, because you see, Jeshua 12, let's go back to the original. Jeshua 12 in 12 BC was born into the line of King David / Solomon. He was, not Jeshua 9 of the Nephilim Anunnaki seed line. It was Jeshua 12. And none of the royals that ever existed thereafter in any country ever came from Jeshua 12. Now, they think that Jeshua 12 was the Jesus, but they didn't realize about Jeshua 9, and they didn't know about Arihabi, etc., etc. So they just made it all up. And the reason, and I'm just going to slightly shift here because it is relevant, the reason that the royals have red carpets and golden coaches and everybody hangs on their every word, and they have so much wealth and they are so influential and they have such status, is simply because the Anunnaki are into all of that influence and status. The Anunnaki love gods, kings, queens, and so on. The royals, the powers, the separation from the ordinary chaff. And that's what they really like. The angelic humans never had kings and queens. They had magi queens and magi grail kings, but they were not revered as special people. They were regarded as important because they carried codes. They knew the laws more than the ordinary angelic humans, and they carried higher frequency codes, the DNA 7 to 12. That was why they were important in every angelic tribe. Not that they had red carpets and people would bow down every time they walked past. We, as angelic humans, have never had that reverence for royals, etc. But the Anunnaki have. The Anunnaki, throughout their whole history, have always been interested so much with royals. And so no surprise that Mary Magdalene began the Merovingian line along with Jeshua 9, and all of the Anunnaki royals came out of that line. They didn't come out of Jeshua 12, King David's line. So I'm sorry to all of those royals in the UK who think that Elizabeth and Charles come from King David's line, because it's nonsense.
Well, I just want to add to that because, as I wrote in the book, the angelic humans, we were the royals because we were the guardians of the Grail, the Stargates, the guardians of the ley lines, the guardians of our Mother Earth. And we never ruled over people because people were God sovereign free. That was not even in our thought process. And it's interesting because my name is Elizabeth Monroy in French. I come from those bloodlines, but not the fallen ones, and French and Irish and Scottish, and Monroe means my queen. So I always joke and say I'm the real Queen Elizabeth. As are all the other queens, so it's not, because we don't see ourselves as above or below, but true Magic Grail line. And, you know, in Italy, they always call me, I say, Elizabeth. Oh, Queen Elizabeth, they say. So it's really strange. But that's always been with me, you know. And then when I wrote a newsletter, the queen is dead, long live the queens, you know, because
Yeah.
it is our turn. That is the meek inheriting the earth as we restore the true bloodlines as the guardians of our planet, our Mother Earth.
Well, wonderful. I know that royals, the word royals actually has echoes with the word gruels, the gruels, and the gruels are the significant Stargate connection portals with the morphogenetic field of Earth. So gruel and royal is very, very important because the codes, the frequencies are what connect us all. And you're quite right, of course, about the angelics. We regarded everything as unified. We believed in unity consciousness, that we were all one, and there was no difference between us, and that therefore we were all gods of the KRYST. So yeah, I totally agree with that.
Well, I'm just going to take one little sidestep and then I'll finish up with Mary Magdalene, but which brings us to probably the only real king that was in our true history, but was moved into mythology, but King Arthur, who was a Grail king and who tried to finish Yeshua 12's job with the deidetic crystal, Niburian crystal matrix, but also failed. And apparently I hear he's back. I don't know. Do you have any?
Oh, no, I don't know. Maybe he's back as a rock star and he's got an album out.
Well, no, according to some sources, he was put into stasis. He didn't die. He was put into stasis.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah,
No, I don't
yeah,
know that.
so,
That would
yeah,
be a
it's
fascinating story.
But let's get to Mary Magdalena. I just want to, because in the Catholic Church, I see her. Okay, first of all, I don't think she agreed to be used to be a breeder for the Anunnaki, one. And two, I really see what they've done. The Roman Catholic Church has usurped the divine eternal mother and placed the Magdalene. Well, really, they've placed the Mother Mary, and the Magdalene, you know, was cast kind of as a whore, but, you know, as this pitiful, suffering, you know, entity, and also created a Black Madonna network around the planet, you know, to further, you know, lower the frequencies of our Earth, which grid system, which is leaving now. But I mean, I just see so much manipulation with the Magdalena. So do you have some positive words about that?
Well, I mean, sometimes positive and negative don't actually align with truth.
Okay. What do you have a different perspective on that then?
I'm not actually 100% sure, and I don't think anybody really truly is. Okay. However, well, because we're told that I believe that Mary Magdalene was a prostitute, and that Jeshua 9 became associated with her in many different ways, and eventually married her, and in which case then she would not have been aligned with Jeshua 12 and wouldn't have been his twin flame. There are other tales and stories coming out about that, which are totally opposite. And in fact, that Jeshua 12 did have a twin flame, and that he came down separately into Earth, and then eventually was associated with his twin flame and stayed on Earth for many, many years, until at the age of 80, he had to be physically evac'd out of Earth because he wanted to stay here to help his twin flame recover from the hibernation zones into which she had been placed by the fallen angelics in the fourth dimensional realms. And the hibernation zones did exist until 2008. And then the story continues. When Jeshua 12 had remained within the frequency zones of Earth because he missed his twin flame so much. In fact, he even wanted to go back to space dust so that he could be with her forever. And he was even willing to take that astonishing chance. And then in 2008, in grid work in Virginia Beach, the hibernation zones, which were an artificially created zone in the fourth dimension by the fallen angelics, those hibernation zones would store soul essences for as long as were required, and then returned as was needed. So they were being used. So soul essences would die, get locked into the hibernation zones, and Jeshua 12's twin flame was one of them. And in 2008, a grid work exercise released in Mayaka all of the hibernation zones, and all of those soul essences were free once again to go where they should have gone, and to be free of the hibernation zone, which was cancelled out and deleted. And in that moment, it is said that Jeshua 12 manifested in Virginia Beach to all of the grid workers who were there, including Ashiana Dean, and said thank you for releasing his twin soul, and because then he could go home and be with her. Now, I wasn't there, and I have picked this story up from people who were at the grid work in Virginia Beach, and I'm simply retelling what they told me.
Yes, that resonates completely. The only thing is that I think he had to actually leave bodily before then. I think Yeshua and I might have been the one who stuck around for a while, but but he did not leave. He just stayed waiting for her, and she had and she was also coated with a lot of Metatronic reversals that had to be cleared away. But and I believe that. I mean, I see that with Peter and I, that when you have your true twin soul, your counterpart, the initial flame that sparks, you're one. So you can't really leave. It'd be like leaving without your right, your right side or your left side. I mean, you have to get. That's part of the restoration process, and the risk of coming down here and doing the work, because you're going to get overlays and all kinds of other crap on you. But hallelujah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, I resonate with what you're saying there, because you are in touch and have been in touch and with your twin flame, and that is just absolutely amazing. So I respect and resonate with everything that you say there.
And mine, now that I'm gathering more and more information, I realized it was a rescue mission for Peter, because he had definitely been fatally, a lot, and fallen with many of his lifetimes. He tried to stay the course, but there was so much fallen in there, and it was just his favorite movie was Heaven. Made in Heaven, and it was about this guy who all he had to do was find his twin soul. That's it, and that was all he had to really do in this lifetime. And then we spent the first part of our time together of him repairing all his karma. So he ended up working with women as a gynecologist, because he had been such a, in the Bible, Peter was the one who really didn't like Mary Magdalene. I don't know if you see that. So, and she was probably really supposed to be the head of the church, but he was, and he didn't do that. He went to Rome. He was very electrically distorted. So he had a lot of stuff to undo there, but that's another story. So,
well, there's so many stories have come out of this one, and it seems to me that the real one that counts here, which is the direction of travel that I mentioned at the very beginning of the program, the real seed of this particular story, whichever details may be correct about the three Jesuses, is that in fact Jeshua 12, the representative of the Christ, was not sacrificed. He was not crucified. As if God, the Christ, the eternal Christ, would ever do something like that. And the reason is because we are all the Christ. We are the Christ consciousness. And we represent in the incarnate form all of those Christian and Christic energies, which are calling us back eternally into the place we never left. And this was the message of Jeshua 12. And this was meant to be the message of Jeshua 9, but it got distorted, as so many things do get distorted in our world here. So the real takeaway is that we are the KRYST. We are the energetic eternal KRYST. And Jeshua 12 showed us the way, and we now have to realize who we are. We are made in his image, it says in the Bible.
Amen. Hallelujah, brother. And I want to add to that because I just recently heard, and it was in the Ashana Dean's book, Angelic Realities, that she's released on her website, arias.com. But according to the first plan, we're kind of in plan B with fail safe, but according to the first plan, Yeshua 9 was supposed to, which he did, restore the template. And then he was supposed to return at this time, which he did on Virginia Beach for a different reason. But he was supposed to continue the plan with the halls of Amente. But because the distortions and the fallen angelics just kept winning, really, they just kept winning. So, but we fortunately, and I just want to hats off to all the Indigos and Ashiana Dean who did her work pre-2012. They maintained our Earth's template and even the time matrix in enough integrity so that fail-safe could kick in. And we're in fail-safe now. So that plan of the ascension path, the Taragaya, and of Yeshua coming back is no longer. Now it is up to us. We are all the KRYST, and each day, with each word we think, with each foot we place on the planet, with this shifting of consciousness, with these discussions where we are sifting out the timelines and reattaching the organic timelines as our consciousness expands, we are being, as you said, the KRYST incarnate, and we are the ones that are realigning our entire time matrix back home on the Crystalla spiral of life, back to infinite God source.
Brilliantly put. I must write that down because that's exactly right. So Elizabeth, I respect that, everything that you just said. It's so true.
Well, thank you. And wow, what a wonderful conversation. I think the last thing I want to say is for the Black Sheeps, or many of us, we are going to probably be coming together a lot during this Yule season. And, first of all, of course, the solstice is such a powerful time of purging out the lower frequencies and releasing everything, so we can embody 2025. And I think 2025 is going to be, a Lollapalooza, humdinger, whatever. Just get ready, fasten your seatbelts, because the timelines are just, warping and wafting, and things are getting interesting. But, I know many of us have been, kind of like, no, that's wrong, with our families here, and I think we had to take an important stance, like, no, I'm not going to get that, shot, or, I'm not going to participate. And it was very important. And we needed to kind of delineate ourselves, the wheat from the chaff. So we were solidified in exiting the mind control programs of the matrix, But this holiday season, as you are invited to participate, and maybe you just want to observe as your families go through the rituals of the programming, and it's like they repeat the same thing every year. My family would do it with like clockwork. Okay, this is the breakfast, now the present opening, now this. But I think it would be much more powerful to not preach or teach or, be that, but there was no, crucifixion. Just to silently observe and hold the higher frequencies of love, compassion, and in truth. And as you do that, I think you will affect a much greater change within them, and they may even come out of their hypnosis, mind control rituals for a moment and just feel that higher frequency. What do you think?
I totally agree with you. Yes, I mean the core of the Christmas of the Christ Mass message is love and unity. But as we know, the cabal and their minions in corporate conglomerates have managed to hijack this love and this unity and make it a cow which gives them so much money. So yes, you know that the energy of the Christ energy behind it has been hijacked to do something totally different. So I hope that we can all remember the real love and unity message that lies behind it.
Yes, and we won't even go into the Satan clause and, all the materialism. And if you're a good boy or a good girl, Satan will give you what you want. And, so just, try to remain in the Christ, in that beautiful oneness energy of love and truth and, expansive high frequencies during this time. And
Yeah.
that I thank you so much. Every time I'm with you, I just feel so wonderfully high from your energy and your wealth of information and knowledge. Thank you for being so generous and sharing with us all. Always, you're always there for us. Thank you.
Elizabeth, thank you for inviting me. I always enjoy coming to Sicily or to Mexico or to wherever you manage to be. I hope you'll invite me again, and love to all of your members too.
Well, let me just sign off saying I am possibly, this place is amazing where I am. I'm seeing like the other timelines and crystalline pillars and healing centers and everything. The whole Yucatan is just very powerful, and I'm looking to buy something with 2 bedrooms. So you'll have a bedroom here in the Yucatan, and
wonderful.
So
well, I look forward to that. I really would like to go to Yucatan and Mexico. It's a place of enormous history. So with your energies there, it must be a heaven on earth.
I see you here already. It's already happened, and we'll bring others here too for bioregenesis. Oh, it is so healing, this place. I mean, I did a Tamasca with a shaman here, and he was such a good shaman. I just love him, Efren. And he's like, we're sweating. We sweat for like 3 hours in the womb, in total darkness. And he's saying, I'm 5 years younger. I'm 10 years younger. And when I crawled out of the womb, I said, I'm crawling out. I said, I'm 10 years younger.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, Elizabeth, I'll see you on Monday.
Really? No, it's true. It really is. But I just want to make an announcement to all of you, especially if you're listening on the podcast forum. I've left Voice America because Voice America actually ended. They are no longer doing live shows, and I've been kind of in between, but I have been approached by the Bold and Brave TV studio. And they found me. There's one woman in the group, and one of the guys, the producers, is Joe Shizano, who did the Gorilla podcasts with Sasha Stone. So it's a real kind of pushing the envelope station, and they found me. It was a one woman on the team, and they said, you got to get Elizabeth Monroe at the Infinite Talk Show to sign on. And it's they said, you're the future, your voice is the future, you're what people are going to want. So I'm like, oh really? Okay, good.
Sounds amazing.
And now I have paid Voice America very much to be on, to have them produce my show, and I just did it out of total faith, because I was told to. I always do what I'm told, even though I might complain sometimes. And and I found out I love it. I'm passionate about it, and I've had over 50,000 people tune in, about 5,000 a month. Wow. And thank you all. I'm so grateful to you. Thank you so much. And I love doing it. And I've got so many wonderful comments that I've helped. It's very inspiring. It helps you to remember. Really, the point is just to help remind you and reconstruct your memories of how infinite and powerful you are. So I signed a contract with them. They're supposed to get me in front of 500 million people, also on TV. Now there are going to be commercials. So, but you know what? I'm paying for this, so I need to, get some money back for my work, because it takes a lot of work. And I always try to promote the people the guests that come on here too, because I like to have regular people. And so there will be some. I'm trying to get them just to do 10 minutes out of the hour, but we should be starting that hopefully by the new year. They sent me some equipment because they have new equipment, but it got held up in customs, so I have to go get it in customs here in Mexico. But we'll be starting in the new year, and for you listening on the podcast, I'm going to continue the podcast forums, and it's just going to expand to TV and I don't know, lots of other things. And David Emery will have to have you back on, so you be in front of 500 million people.
Oh goodness, well, don't tell me it. Don't tell me.
and we'll be doing visuals, so we can have your vector codes on too.
Okay, that'd be great. Elizabeth, thank you again for inviting me, and I hope that I see you again soon.
And one last question for you: where will we be able to get your book? Do you know yet? It should be on Amazon, right?
Well, I don't know yet. So can I keep you personally posted, Elizabeth, and you can tell your friends?
Okay. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.